Thank you, Chair. Thank you, General Sharma. Thank you, IDSA, for inviting me to this wonderful conference where I have an opportunity to communicate with so many prominent scholars. Speaking on the last session has its definite disadvantage. You're doomed to repeat what has already been said, and therefore you fall into trivialities. But on the other hand, it has its advantages because you may overtly or covertly argue with what has been said, and in any case you'll be the last one to say the word, and therefore you'll have the upper hand in the discussion. My topic is strategic trends in Asia, future direction. But as you understand, future is not coming from out of nowhere, so I'll have to deal with the recent past and the present of the situation, and then maybe if I have time, then I'll come to the future tendencies as the way I see them. It has become a commonplace statement that 21st century is the century of Asia. It has been repeated here several times, and I don't think anyone has any disagreement with this statement. But many scholars ascribe this statement with the so-called strategic pivot declared by Hillary Clinton in 2011 and the return to Asia in American foreign policy. I think that, with all the importance of that pivot on which I will speak a little bit later, I think that it was not the year 2011, but rather the year 2014 that was crucial and that witnessed several trends and several developments that are significant for future development in Asia. I would speak about Asia in a broader context. It's not Asia just limited to geographical boundaries, because when you speak about, for example, Russia, it's part of it is in Europe, although the most part of it is in Asia, and so on. And when I speak about Asia Pacific, you intend to include United States also. So I have outlined four such factors, four such developments of 2014. Of course, I chose them according to my own choice. The list is not exhaustive and it's definitely biased. So anyone is free to add anything or to exclude the factors that I have listed. The first one is definitely the rise of China, as declared in the end of year 2014 by IMF. China has surpassed the United States as the first economic power in terms of purchasing power parity. Well, later Chinese officials sort of tried to play down these declarations, saying that the calculation was not correct, that it didn't took into consideration certain factors. But anyway, this and of course the PPP is not does not mean measuring GDP in actual and real terms, but still. I think that it means a significant step signifying that the United States has lost its number one position as a global economic superpower. Well, unfortunately, Professor Barry is absent today, so he was speaking yesterday about this at length and said that whether we like it or not, the unipolar world is coming to an end. Second development of 2014. In July, the BRICS countries at its summit in Brazil finalized or signed a deal to create a 100 billion development bank and emergency reserve fund. This may seem, of course, it's not a challenge to IMF and World Bank monopoly at the moment, but we know that even big trees grow from small seeds. And later, Russia and China and some other BRICS countries decided to conduct their bilateral trade in national currencies. This signifies that dollar is losing its US dollar is losing its position as the only reserve currency in the world. So the third development was demonstrated in September in Dushanbe, the capital of Tajikistan, at the summit of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, where the roadmap for enlargement was finalized, and Actually, India and Pakistan received a green light for entering SCO as full right members. This was further developed at the summit a meeting of foreign ministers of the three countries, Russia, India, and China, which is called as RIC, in Beijing earlier this month, where China, I think for the first time, overtly proclaimed that it supports India's bid for full-time membership in SCO. If that happens, and there's all hope to believe that it may happen at the forthcoming summit of SCO in Ufa in Russia. Well, that will mean that there will be a new regional organization. The biggest one in terms of population, probably the biggest one in terms of GDP, even measured in absolute terms, and encompassing a vast territory. Definitely the biggest one in territorial aspects, encompassing a vast territory from North Eurasia to South Asia. Well, this is definitely going to be a game changer in global politics. And fourth, last but not least, is a decision taken in May 2014 by leaders of Russia, Kazakhstan, and Belarus, which signed a treaty transforming the already existing customs union into a Eurasian Economic Union, which came into force 1st January this year. Armenia has also joined this union, and we expect that Kyrgyzstan, or Kyrgyzia in Russian, will join it shortly. The attractiveness of this Eurasian Economic Union has been demonstrated by the fact that over 30 countries, including very different in terms of geography, social and political and economic their orientations, like Mexico or Indonesia or Vietnam or Egypt, and last but not least India, have already demonstrated interest in concluding a free trade zone agreement with these free trade agreement with this union, with prospects for further integration. Of course, all these four factors, well, they may be different in nature, but they all point in one direction. That is the end of the unipolar world and the emergence of new centers of power, which probably will dominate the global and Asian as the center of the globe in the 21st century politics. Obviously, losing a monopoly is not probably a nice thing for the monopolist, and the recent years have witnessed attempts to somehow to not to prevent, then at least to slow the speed of these processes. Obviously, the already mentioned strategic pivot to Asia of 2011 was declared in anticipation of China's growth, and no one ever concealed its ultimate end, that is of containing China. But actually, the world of 2015 or 2000 previous years is a little bit different from that of 2001, when United States had capability and willingness to involve directly in solving their problems, which originated from 9/11 attacks. What it led to is unfortunately too well known, and I think that the rise of Islamic State in Iraq or the re-emergence of the Taliban in Afghanistan is not what was initially designed by the perpetrators of these operations. But still, I think that while it's obvious that on the global scale, the two poles of standoff are United States and China. United States is not ready to conduct a direct confrontation, direct confrontation with China, and therefore it resorts to the tactics or strategy of proxy confrontation. The core reason, there are many reasons why a direct confrontation between US and China can be excluded, but I would say that the main one of them is the sheer fact that I'm not exactly sure of the exact recent figures, but just a year ago, I think the amount of American assets in Chinese hands surpassed the mark of $3 trillion, and half of it in treasury bonds alone, which only means that well, the two sides can indulge in a mutually suicidal scheme if they decide to confront each other directly. That doesn't exclude, as I said, the tactics or strategy of proxy confrontation, and we have seen, and we still seeing many examples of that. One of them is Syria, where no outside great power is taking part directly, but indirectly they are supporting all kinds of forces, whether it's Russia supporting the Bashar al-Assad regime or the United States supporting the opposition, which also had very unpredictable repercussions, like most of the or some of the aid going to Islamic State. Well, it's also I don't think it's a coincidence that the events in Ukraine happened right after the BRICS countries decided to set up a common bank. Well, the initial decision was taken not in 2014, but rather in 2013. The 2014 only finalized the project. So I'm not going to go deep into Ukrainian crisis. I'm sure, well, whether I like it or not, it will pop up in the Q&A session. So I'll reserve my time and save my time for that. So, but anyway, the Ukraine crisis is a direct, well, it's an example of a, if I may say so, a direct proxy confrontation. It is a proxy confrontation between big powers, using the terms great powers, the superpower and great powers, using Barry Buzan's terms. But still, thankfully, none of the great powers or even regional powers has been directly involved there. But this is an example of an open war going on. So there are other examples. For example, as I said, the United States is not ready to directly confront China, but it doesn't exclude the proxy confrontation, which we see in attempts to align whether old-time allies in East Asia, East and Southeast Asia, like Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines, or whether it is an attempt to find new allies, like, for example, United States have been courting Vietnam for a long time, and of course there are legitimate concerns in Vietnam concerning China's spread, so there could be some coincidence of interest, and so on, and so forth. Well, I would say that while China remains the main opposing pole or main opposing center of power for the United States, it's the aim for the tactical aim for the United States is to break up probably BRICS, and in doing this, the events, the confrontation with Russia or the games around China demonstrate that, the three main pillars, the policy here is aimed at removing at least two of the three main pillars of BRICS, because without Russia or China or India, BRICS will be just nothing. It will be just a regional grouping with little outside influence. So it is also worth looking into the issue how United States is treating India. Of course, some of the interests of India and China, of India and United States coincide when it comes to containing China. But on the other hand, we have seen before the latest elections and in general elections. I mean, in India, we have seen that the United States used kind of covert means to prevent Narendra Modi from coming to power, and his diplomatic blockade was ended only in the beginning of 2014, while other Western countries had realized that he would be the next premier much earlier and started establishing links with him before. India has a special role in United States strategic plans, and but the fact is that the confrontation and standoff is not a linear thing. While the United States is trying to arrange all kinds of proxies around China to contain China, China is not willing to have a direct confrontation with countries like India, and the very fact that China is a trading partner #1 of India shows that, despite the existing differences, despite the existing concerns, the two countries have an ability and have a willingness to develop fruitful, mutually beneficial relations. And at the same time, China is also, using Pakistan as its proxy, and India reciprocates by establishing links in ASEAN, of which we have spoken much during the sessions. So, I would give India credit, because that its policy probably is the best example in global politics of policy of a country which, despite the existing difficulties, problems, and concerns, can and does establish fruitful relations, non-confrontational relations. With in this respect, when I was going through my paper in my mind just before coming here, a wild idea occurred to me. Actually, I will speak about Russo-Chinese relation probably during the Q&A session, because it's also a big issue, and already running out of time. So, just a wild idea occurred to me, that could be a strategic triangle of Russia, India, and ASEAN, which could be could position itself outside the global confrontation or global standoff of the two main poles. To sum up, I'm already running out of time. I think that the two main tendencies that we are witnessing now is one of integration of regional powers, of which Professor Buzon spoke at length, and formation of regional centers of powers, and the other one is the attempt to contain this process, to impede it, and to preserve the unipolar world, especially when it comes to losing monopoly on controlling the money flows and dollar monopoly. Thank you.